Okay, July 7th, 2025. We got 21, 18, 15, 12, 9, 6, 3 of hand release push-ups to V-ups. This set of 21 is like any other high rep set. You don't want to go absolutely crazy, even though you're fresh. Here's the thing about hand release push-ups. The hands just come off the ground while your chest stay completely on the ground. And then you press up like you would a normal push-up. Obviously, the V-ups are going to be the most difficult part of this movement. I'm noticing that my core after a week or so is already starting to feel stronger. But I did kind of crap out pretty quick during this first set of V-ups, and I'm not trying to go unbroken on these. I'm well aware that I'm not able to do that just yet, but I do want to make sure that my form is correct, shoulders coming off the ground, hand to feet, all that. Set 21 was done. Here comes 18. Notice how my chest is all the way down to the ground. Hands come off the ground, maybe a couple inches or so. You should see the space between the ground and my hand. Awkward look at the camera. One thing I have to note, and I'm not saying this to make myself feel better or anything, but it's important to remember that you're not coming into these things fresh. If you're following what I'm posting, you're coming in having exerted, a good amount of energy. It's not, there's no percentage work or anything being done prior to this. It's really just getting a feel for weights and doing reps, and just kind of getting the body and the mind conditioned to work at a good, quick pace with minimal rest. And that's all I'm trying to do with my strength portions is, be as strong as I can right now, make sure my movements are what they need to be or how they need to be, and that, strength is in a okay spot before I start doing any kind of one rep stuff, or doing any kind of like one rep testing. That might be the longest little period I take on doing V-ups. I'm not pleased by any means with the outing I had on the V-ups. I knew they were going to be challenging. Right here, every time I'm slowing down, you can kind of see like my arms stretching out behind my head a little bit. I'm stretching out my core. I'm stretching out like my abs because I feel like every time I come down, I'm about to cramp up. Never did cramp up, but I felt like I was getting close. But that was 18. On to 15. I will say that even though I was kind of taxed coming into this, the push-ups, even though I felt fatigued, were still, pretty strong. My pace for the most part was, pretty consistent. I didn't take long breaks. I might have took like, no more than 3 seconds if I had to like slow down for a bit. But, I felt better about the hand release push-ups than I did the V-ups. And that stuff's more in my wheelhouse too, so I had to take advantage of that. So, set of 15 coming up. What I noticed I was doing, I don't want to say subconsciously, but what I noticed, the groove that I got into was that I was doing like 3 rep sets. I would do 3 and kind of, gather myself, and then I would do 3 more. And I think that was 5, might have been 6, I'm not sure. But this is my set of 15. And this was probably the hardest set. I think, I said 18 might have been the most challenging, but sets 18 and 15 were, they were challenging because they were long. They were still shorter, but they were long, so you want to go faster, but you know, you can't try to blast through it because you're just gonna wreck yourself. And so really what was most important for me here was that my shoulders were coming off the ground and that I was taking my hands all the way to my feet, and I was meeting in the middle with my hands at my feet. I used to have a coach say, when you're doing these, don't do a V-up and look like a dead bug. Felt like I was looking like a dead bug in some of these. But here's a set of 12. Yeah, if you're going to pick a movement, because it's a shorter, it has a shorter range of motion, if you're going to pick a movement in this workout to go unbroken on, it needs to be the hand release push-ups. The V-ups are just really long, and it's a long, elongated movement, where the push-ups are more of a concentric movement. It's the part of the body that's being worked, it's shortened, so you're not really having too big of a stretch when you're going down. Now, it is more of a static movement because when you are pushing, you're pushing dead weight up. But with the V-ups, though, it's a longer movement. If you're going to break up the V-ups. Like I got to where I was doing sets of 3, and then I would take a quickie, and then I would, I'd do another set of 3, and then I'd try to, make sure my stomach wasn't going to knot up on me. Your boy's looking a little top heavy right here. I don't know. That's just that gut that I've put on here recently. I did get up this morning though, and I don't really follow by the scale as much as I follow like the way that I look and the way that I feel. That's more or less how I track my progress. And saw some areas that were coming along, definitely in my core, starting to get a little bit tighter. So, that tells me what I'm doing's working for me. So I can only recommend that you might give it a try, because it might be pretty good for you too. But we're nearing the end of this, and it's important, if you can, which I'm one to talk because I couldn't. I didn't have it. But, I talked about this in my kettlebell swing, wall ball, handstand push-up workout from last week. Lower rep sets need to be unbroken, or, you need to try to be as unbroken as you can. It's those little those small parts of the workout make the biggest differences, because if you can push through those lower rep sets and endure the pain right there, that's where the gains are going to be made, later on down the road. So I think I'm on 6 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. 6. Okay. Now, before I get into it, I programmed double unders for 5 minutes. I was gonna get a 5 rep max on for a 5 minute max on double unders. I could not do it. The rope that I had was too short. I was having major difficulties with that stupid rope, and so every time I try to adjust my hands, I smoke myself in the back of the head. I try to raise it up just a little bit and adjust my grip, clip my feet. I don't know if it was a turf that I was trying to do it on too, but I got tired of trying it, and so I just substituted the movement. So I go from that. I hit my 2 minute rest after my sets of 3 here, and I get into 5 minutes of, that one didn't count. Hold on. 5 minutes of get up so I can say what I need to say. Hurry up. Boy, this guy. Man, he's dead bugging it. Come on, get up. All right, on to 5 minutes of air squats. Still, it might not be as fast-paced as double unders. However, it's still really effective. I have no idea how many I did. I'm going to have to count here. I'm waiting on the 3, 2, 1. Okay. I can already tell you, just looking at my air squat form, I need to sit, or I need to transition my weight back a little bit more to the middle of my foot to my heel, and not so much as the ball of my foot to the middle of my foot, because that's where my weight's being distributed right now. Dude, I was gassed, man. You know, like during all, like I was just absolutely gassed. I didn't have, and when I say I was gassed, like it wasn't like my breathing. I was just, you know, like, you know, from a core standpoint, you know, my core was kind of shot, man. Like I had to focus really hard on my stability, and then of course I get to, you know, I start getting up there in my reps, and next thing I know, I'm slowing way down, which is not good. You know, and again, I kind of had to put this movement in on the fly. I don't like doing that. I really want to try to stick to doing stuff that corresponds to what I post on Instagram. However, if I got to make a change, you know, sometimes that's necessary and sometimes that's going to happen. Stop acting like that stuff hurts, dude. Come on, go. Dude, hey, y'all, I'm going to be honest with you, too. Like, from last week being like the first like full week of getting back into this stuff, y'all, I'm wrecked. Like I am absolutely wrecked. I did a 5K on Saturday, which that was really just meant to test like my running capacity and just see where I'm at. You know, why couldn't you just do a mile? You know, that's a good question somebody asked me. Because I'm dumb. I got this thing in my head where it's like, well, I've done a 5K before, and this was my time. Sure, why not? I haven't ran a 5K in, you know, 6 years. I could do it right now and be fine. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. I did it, though, and I pressed through, and what got me going was two things. Number one, 4th of July, I knew I was going to eat, and number two, I knew I didn't have a workout to do the next 2 days after that, so I went all out on the 5K, and I paid for it because my legs felt like jello. My joints just felt like friggin' bricks in a socket. And all in all, you know, it just, you know, I'm getting back into it. Like, I felt strong on my strength portion today. I felt strong, and I felt, you know, some things are starting to come back. And like I said earlier, I looked in the mirror and I saw some areas of improvement there too. So it's getting there, but it's really important to not beat yourself up, and I'm the pot calling the kettle black when it comes to this, because I can be the worst critic on myself, and I feel like a lot of us do that. We're so hard on ourselves, either because, you know, we got this old athlete in us, and, you know, we try to be that dog still, but, you know, as you get older, it kind of subsides a little bit. So you got to be smart about this kind of stuff. You got to find out better ways to recover. You got to, you know, be more efficient in your movements, and, you know, and then I think it's also huge that you focus on the little things when you're at this point. But a lot of that's just me rambling right now because I got 5 minutes to talk about stuff. So when you're doing these air squats too, you know, it's supposed to be a 5-minute AMRAP set. You can go for broke, and you can try and rep like a daggum piston, and you can. You know, I strongly encourage that. Did I do it? No, I didn't. But anyways, I'm just checking out my time right now. I realize I got about 20 seconds. I didn't have the timer in front of my face, and I couldn't hear the countdown either because the music in this gym it's bumping, but it's loud. It overtakes a lot of the you know, if I got my timer going, I can't really hear it, so I had to check the time. But we're going, and yeah, for the most part, depth looks good. I got some stiffness in my hips. You can obviously see that. But guys, I appreciate y'all for giving this a look. You know, if you're a new subscriber, just expect content like this on a regular basis. You know, this is not just my fitness journey, but if you want to follow along with it, videos and postings on Instagram are usually pretty correspondent. So, you know, hop on it and give it a try. So appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.